Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say thank you for joining me today as I inform you about the women's suffrage movement. Women, we have come a long way. For years, only men, specifically white men, were able to vote. Until one day, someone stepped up to make a difference, to make a change. The 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment allowed all men to vote, not just white men, but men of color, men of all ethnicities were allowed the right to vote. But sadly, this did not include women. This was strictly and only men. This movement to allow women the right to vote started with two women. Their names are Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I'd like to share a brief history of the two women. Susan B. Anthony, where did she come from? She was born in Massachusetts in the year of 1820. Anthony was also raised by a Quaker. If you don't know what a Quaker is a member of the Religious Society of Friends. So, naturally, she held her Christian values close. She did that much like her father. She was raised that way. Anthony also comes from a family who was involved in politics and in the government of Massachusetts. So she grew up knowing the challenges and the difficulties about the government, that she was able to witness opportunities that other people may not have been able to realize because of the way that she grew up. Through her core belief of Christianity and the way that she was raised in the government, she knew that she could make a difference. Not only did she know that she could, but she wanted to. It was in her blood. She wanted to implement this belief into the government to change the lives of women in the American society. Anthony also wanted the view of how women were treated by men to change. She wanted the way that men looked at women to be different, not just the right to vote. Like Anthony, Stanton wanted to make a difference too. So now we move on to Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was born in New York in 1815. She also came from a successful educational family. Her father was a lawyer, so she was able to afford to go to school to get an education to learn about law through him as well. This was something that the two women had in common: government and law. Together, both women were able to pull together their strengths to make a difference for women in America. Anthony and Stanton fought together by traveling the country, giving speeches to the public so that they can know and support the cause of women's rights to vote. Many women didn't agree or step up, but these two women did. Even though the consequences could have been huge, they saw the worth, they saw the value in this, and they persisted. Where did this all begin? This began in New York at the Seneca Falls Convention. Change did not happen on this day, but progress to start the change started on this day. In the 1900s, the movement became huge. Women knew that they needed the right to vote, but they couldn't change anything because they had no rights. So what do women do? Women formed two major associations: the National American Women's Suffrage Association and the National Women Party. The two groups were very different in the way that they chose to pursue the common goal, but they each persisted to make the common difference. The National American Women's Suffrage Association was led by the president, Carrie Chapman Catt. It's a lot of C letters. Carrie Chapman Catt. This group was less extreme in their actions, but they still wanted the right to vote. The National Women Party called the government a hypocrisy. This led to the National Women American Suffrage Association separating themselves due to the fact that they wanted to be ladylike and respectful. This group was not just for women's rights to vote, but this group pushed for things to change. Not only did they want women's rights to vote, but they wanted the divorce laws to change and the employment laws to change. Women wanted more than just the right to vote, but they wanted any right that a man had. This group numbered in the millions by the 1900s. The National American Women's Suffrage Association got the word out there. They did this through parades, and they also did this through celebrity propaganda, getting celebrities to support their cause. The National Women Party, this group was more extreme, more radical than the other association. They did things like picketing the White House. But both groups were able to work together for their goals to succeed. In the 1920s, the 19th Amendment was changed. Women had the right to vote. On August 18th, the amendment was ratified. Women were allowed to vote. There was no denying that women had rights now, especially since this was going around at the same time as World War I. This was a time when we needed more workers in America than ever, so women also had the right to be employed at this time. Following the amendment, Kat was able to make a group called the League of Women's Voters. This allowed women to not just possess the right to vote, but able to put their right to vote into action. They were able to use this right. Effects today. Many women today are able to vote, or all women today are able to vote because of the women's suffrage movement. Some may have even suffered for this dream to become a reality. Next year, in 2020, will be 100 years that women will have had the right to vote.